Well, I don't know what to say other than buh. I mean, buh. I'm pretty sure I did this right. I read through the rules here a couple times, but this is just the first shock combat. And Sargon's, the Akkadians, collapsed. I mean, if you recall, the lines were faced up right along here. And every unit that is subject to a shock attack has to first roll a troop quality test. What do they call it? Pre-shock resolution troop quality test. And if they fail, they have to rout, and they rout in one of two ways. They either rout in orderly fashion, which means they get put next to the Sargon's banner in a routed condition, or they simply flee the battle. And that hit these guys hard. I mean, troop quality is only primarily a 4 or a 5, and you're rolling on a D10. And so some of these guys stuck around, but a lot of them took off. And then what happens is during that pre-shock resolution troop quality check, the attacker advances and can turn one vertice if the guy routs. So these guys are all routed. That guy's routed, etc., etc. And what I clarified on the game board was, which I'm not sure yet how I feel about this, frankly, but you just, the way that, in this version of the rules at least, the way that a routed unit works is if they flee, they're gone. If they rout in orderly fashion, they must come as close as possible to the king's banner. Sargon's banner is right there with him. So long as there's a clear path for them to do so. Like, so for example, this guy routed and he successfully rolled to rout in good order, but he must move, and he had no way to move past a troop, so he had to flee. He's disordered, right? So, but the thing that sucks is that's not done as movement. That's very clearly not called movement. You just simply, if you can trace a path to the banner, you come to it. And so what's kind of retarded on that is this guy routed over here. This Sumerian attacked this Akkadian. The Akkadian failed his pre-check. He routed in good order. So he gets to come all the way over here. And now he's just in this routed condition waiting to get rallied. This guy gets to move forward. But I don't particularly like that. I think that, I mean, I'll have to see, of course, how it plays out. But I feel like it's more realistic for this guy to have to expend movement points to be able to move back, you know, and maneuver, change vertices and so forth. I don't know. Anyhow, that's a little bit of a gripe. But so these guys got chewed up. That was all the pre-shock infantry test. Then you actually roll on the combat resolution, the clash of arms, to see what happens. And anyone who's still in the line has to take the check. These guys, remember, are basically, excuse me, it was up here, like this line, along this this hex line. These guys are basically the same. They're both shock infantry. Troop quality bounced around between 4 and 5, but they're primarily it's an even match. So in terms of resolving on the tables, let's see where we're at up here. Shock superiority didn't really come into play. That's weapon system or numerical advantage. But here on the clash of arms, you've got a shock infantry attacking another shock infantry. No advantage. Oops, excuse me, column 7. And so when you're rolling everything on column 7, it just came down to a die roll to see, you know, this is probably the same for you. The number in parentheses is the number of hits that the defender receives. The number not in parentheses is what the attacker receives. Some of these battles went against the attacker, you know, so here, this guy is the attacker. He took 3 hits versus this guy defended himself, excuse me, pretty well. He only took 2 hits. But by and large, you know, these guys got chewed up. 3 guys routed. Several, the Akkadian right flank is collapsed. you know, this entire line of Sumerians have pushed forward. These guys are engaged in, you know, a pretty tough battle. I have to see next how you can rally these guys. Look at all these casualties, though. I mean, man alive. That's a huge hit. Now, here's the problem. If I did that right, and I'm virtually positive I did, the Acadians already used their 2 actions this turn. So that was just halfway. That was just the first action of these Sumerians. They've got another round to go here. And so this is going to be a big problem because these light infantry units, I believe, will have enough movement to start. Well, certainly they can start filling in the lines. King, what did I call him? Sumer2a, something like that. He's going to be able to bring the battle wagon up and fill into this line. Perhaps even attack Sargon if he wants. These guys are going to come around. These guys are going to come around. And all these guys are going to get a shock again. Or at least be able to roll to, this time if they're already engaged in combat. So this first shock infantry combat happened by default because you moved into an adjacent square and that triggers shock infantry attack. Shock attack. Now that they're already engaged, I have to mark all of these as engaged troops, and now for their next turn, they have to roll a troop quality test in order to attack again. But anyhow, I just wanted to show that to you. So, I mean, that is unbelievably bloody to me, and I'm pretty sure I did that right, but I will double check as I play forward, and I'm curious to know if it's the same way in other games of this series. I really don't remember in Ran. I only played Ran a couple of times with the Samurais. I don't remember it being this brutal. I don't know. Maybe it was crazy dice rolls too. There were a lot of 7, 8, 9s being rolled. But maybe the other thing I'm wondering is if that's modeled into this period of warfare where you really you weren't meant to have these lines smacking into each other. I guess. I don't know. Who knows? Anyhow, I'm talk about shock combat. I really am shocked. But I'll play this next round of the Sumerians, and let's see if there's if Sargon is around for turn 3 to contest this at all. Stand by.